This next quote from Jimmy Haslam is brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy Football. Fantasy football season is back. Fire up the group chat. Get your draft boards ready and buckle up for a season filled with chaos. It's all going down on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, me and the UCS gang are playing our fantasy league on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days, giving you more ways to play, more ways to draft, and more ways to win it all. All the fun begins on August 4th, so stay tuned and get started by creating or joining a Yahoo Fantasy Football League at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That is yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL, and let's make this fantasy season the best one yet. Jason, you just referenced the patience quote from Jimmy Haslam. The first question he was asked yesterday was about Arch Manning. The very next question he was asked was from our friend Jeff Schudel, who said, Jimmy, how many games do you have to win to be considered a successful season? Which he laughed at and said, Jeff, you know I can't answer that question directly. We're going to play the second half of that answer, and then I put the back end of another answer onto it, which was Mary Kay asking Jimmy Haslam about Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry's status entering the season on the hot seat. So this is Jimmy Haslam answering those two questions.
You know, listen, we got to do better than 3, okay? To put a number on it, I don't think we will ever do that. Everybody, coaches, players, personnel, ownership, all knows that 3-14 won't cut it. We've got to do better. I think we'll know what better looks like. We talk to you all fairly frequently, and we're very supportive of Kevin and Andrew. Now, do they need to do better? Yeah, but so do Dee and I, you know what I mean? And these are high-pressure jobs they have, but we really like them in their roles as coach and GM, and we really like them as people. And I say this all the time. They're 38 and 42 years old.
I say this all the time. They're 38 and 42.
Yeah.
Okay.
As if it's going to take time for them to,
they're growing.
you know.
Yeah.
And there is something to be said for the patience and that people will get better with time. I'm kind of out of patience for Andrew Berry. I go a little back and forth on Kevin Stefanski because I loved him at first and I've soured on him a little bit. But I like what they say, but it is interesting because they talk about patience. He clearly doesn't want to fire either of these guys. However, he also said, well, 3-14 is not acceptable.
Yeah, that's not
and
good.
they could be 3-14
Absolutely.
again.
Yeah, I mean,
4-13 will be a much better than 3. 4-13 is way better.
Like, if they're 3-14 again or worse, will they get fired?
It depends on how that looks.
Yes, there's a multitude of ways to go
get to 3-14.
There are. I mean, yes, there are. I mean, you have to watch the games.
I hear you, but I mean 3-14. I mean, there's no good 3-14.
I'm not saying it's good, but there is a path that if you are 3-14 and Shedeur Sanders plays the final 8 games and wins
3,
that's where he wins the 3 games. Then I
guess,
think it's maybe different.
I guess my question is, Jason, since you know the Haslam's the best of anybody here,
and I don't know them well,
and you don't know them well, but you know them better than we do.
Yeah.
Is there can the Browns? Are Berry and Stefanski 100% back next year, or is it if it's total disaster last year or worse? They're gone.
You can't ask that question now because these people could say that they love him.
That's true.
And the next day fire him.
Yes.
That's true.
I've said this many, many times. I've spoken to people in that building who got a glowing review at their annual job review, and 2 weeks later
Who talked to
they
him
were fired.
last?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
But I do. But again,
Yeah.
that's the type of stuff that I think they've learned from, and I think they're trying to avoid. So to answer your question, I think it's in the high 90s.
Yeah.
I think it would have to be a total and complete debacle and meltdown. Because again, if you're a GM and you have any fear, unless you want to get fired, why do you fall from 2 to 5 and set yourself up for a big draft next year if you're not going to be around to make the pick? There's no fear there that he's going to be fired or you don't make that trade down.
I just don't understand. I can understand the argument for Stefanski. I don't understand the argument for Berry. Like, what is the argument for why you would trust him to pick the quarterback next year?
I mean, I can't give you a great one.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't. This is me. I'm guessing. I'm just speculating, guessing. Number one, I think that they are thrilled that they finally have cohesion between
Right.
head coach and front office.
Which is good, yeah.
Everybody's pulling on the rope in the same direction, which
Yes.
they've never had.
Never had, and it's good, yes.
And I think that they are afraid of making it worse.
Right, so if they fired Berry and
Now
they got
what?
another GM,
Now I gotta go
well,
find
he wants
somebody
his
else.
own coach, and we like Stefanski. That's what I said last year. I think the main reason Berry still has his job is because of his relationship with Stefanski.
And those aren't football reasons. Like
No.
none of those are football reasons
No.
that I gave you. And maybe I'm way off, but reading the room, that's what I can come
Yeah.
up with. Is and it's hard because AB is a really good dude. He's a really good dude.
Yeah.
Seems like it.
They both are.
But that doesn't mean you're
Right.
qualified and you're doing a good job. But it is like it's hard to find. If he's a scumbag or a scoundrel, it's
Yeah.
a lot easier to fire the guy. But he
Yeah.
is a really good guy. You're right; they both are. Kevin and AB both. I can't give you a ton of football reasons of what he's done great, of why
Yeah.
he should still be here. But you're asking me why is he still here? Honestly, I think that's why, because they finally see it the same way from DePodesta to Barry to Kevin. I think they see it the same way.
Don't
for
say
the first
DePodesta
time.
in front of Jay.
I
That's
know.
his boogeyman.
I know. And I think that they're afraid of making it worse if they fire him. And they're going to give him. And I think that there is some culpability on the Haslams that, man, we really messed up the Deshaun
Yeah.
thing because they were the ones pushing at the end. We have to keep going.
Yeah.
Don't take no for an answer. And I think that there's some culpability there of we have to let them try and clean up the mess that we made.
All right. I mean, listen, I think continuity is good. I do think Kevin Stefanski's a decent
But only to a
coach.
certain point because everybody in the Guardians has to go.
Well, that's not fair, Jason.
Yes, it
because
is.
It's not fair because I have mostly been positive and
Yes.
complimentary of the front office for years.
But you just said 15 minutes ago they've been here too long.
At this point, I think they have. The clock runs out on everybody eventually.
Eventually.
And your argument is, well, it hasn't run out on them yet. And maybe you're right.
Shapiro moved on and went to Toronto, and then Antonetti moved up. And
Yeah.
maybe at some point Chris moves on, although I don't think he will. But at some point
Yeah.
maybe Chris moves on, and then Mike
Well,
moves
the
up.
reason they don't move on is because they know they won't get fired here.
Well,
That's part of it.
That is part of it.
Yeah.
Mike Chernoff turned down his home. I don't want. We're getting too far.
Yeah, anyway.
Mike Chernoff turned down his hometown team.
Yes.
The Mets.
Yes.
Because of the stability in Cleveland.
Yeah, yes.
And
that's right.
When you've got kids and a family, like
Yeah.
that stuff really matters to
Yeah,
these guys.
100%.
It's just something we don't really ever talk about.
It's going to be. I don't have a lot of faith in Andrew Berry, but there is a little part of me that thinks he's a smart guy. Well, not a little part. I mean, I know he's a smart guy, but there's a little part of me that says eventually he's going to get it right because he's a smart guy, and I believe in smart people, and I think eventually he's going to get it right. But there's not enough. Right now, the facts are not in his favor.
You're right.
What worries me about Andrew Berry is that I think he's good at set up all the salary cap stuff and getting picks and acquiring assets and all these things. But like when it comes to the quarterback position specifically, all those numbers, the spark numbers and this, that, and the it's bullshit. Like I think we need to look at it from a perspective of like you got to be able to look that kid in the eyes and watch his tape and be like, okay, that's the guy. Like who can make that call?
Yeah.
I mean, I want to say Stefanski's got to have a big say in that.
And I think he does.
They work as a team, don't they? They
so
work together.
Dylan Gabriel's in Cleveland because of Kevin Stefanski, not because of Andrew Berry. Like that was Kevin really likes him and Kevin really wanted him.
That's scary.
So I do think that Kevin. I'm not saying AB didn't. I'm just saying I've been left with a strong impression that Kevin really liked Dylan. So we can't just bang Berry for any quarterback decisions that have been made.
Yeah.
Kevin's part of that as well.
And whoever they draft next year, and they will draft a quarterback most likely in the first round next year.
Most likely.
If they get that wrong, then that's the final.
That's
Obviously,
probably
everybody's
it. Yeah,
gone.
then I think that's
Everybody's gone.
probably it. And it's hard
And then you're on to another 10-year rebuild.
And the Browns have just never gotten it right. And obviously Baker's played well in Tampa, and maybe he would have turned it around here. We'll never know. I think he had to hit rock bottom.
I
to
think
turn
you're
it
right
around.
about that, Adam.
Yes. The Baker,
it's hard to.
Baker is not the same guy.
But as good as Baker's been the last 2 years, they still should have taken Lamar or Josh Allen.
And Baker is not going to take a team to a Super Bowl.
I agree.
So, I mean, I
don't think you can say that.
But you got to give him credit. You can't say it with certainty. I agree with Jason. If I had to bet on it, I would bet he never takes team to the Super Bowl.
It's hard to say, Adam.
But
the guy's turned into a top 10 quarterback.
He's I would say I was doing my quarterback rankings the other day. I had him number 10.
Yeah.
I had him number 10. And he's become, I think he's in that third group of quarterbacks where if everything's right around them, you could win. The problem with Baker ultimately, I don't know, we'll move on in a second, is that in the end, I think he's going to kill himself with a big turnover, which he does quite often in big moments. Turnovers will continue to kill him unless he fixes that. But
There's gonna come-
obviously the last 2 years, he has been a very good quarterback.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it.
I have one. Go
No,
ahead.
no, go, Jason. Then I have a question for you.
Well, this is totally off topic, so go ahead.
Let me ask the question that's on
Yeah.
topic before we get off topic. So he did mention in the beginning of that soundbite,
Yeah.
Jimmy Haslam, he's like, it's got to be more than 3. And then Dustin said there's different ways you can get to 3. I get that. What is the threshold, for lack of a better word, do you think the Browns have to reach for Jimmy to be satisfied?
But here's the thing: they want to be bad because they're trying to get a
I-
quarterback.
I agree. They're not. Again, as Dustin said, and he's right. You never know with Jimmy; he could just fly off the handle and fire him.
But I don't think he's gonna
I
do
think
that
Jason's
anymore.
right. I think there's like a 90-something% chance, no matter what happens this year, and it's most likely not going to be good, that they're going to bring everybody back next year.
I mean,
they determined that, as you said, the moment they traded down.
Yes.
You had to assume everybody was coming back for another year.
They were punting on this
Yeah.
year.
Yes. Look at how dreadful that offense was. Their top 2 picks were defensive players.
Right.
Again, just connect the dots and follow what they're doing.
Right.
Follow what they're showing
Yeah.
you. And he's got to come out and say 3 wins isn't good enough. But secretly, deep down, I think he's thinking, "Oh, we get 3
but if
wins
they win
again. We're
th-
probably number 1 or 2 in the
Right.
in the
If
draft.
they
again."
win 3 games, he'll come up with some excuse why they want to keep him for another year.
Yeah.
And ultimately, what's anybody going to do? We can't force his hand, even if we wanted to.
You want to look competitive at him. You
Yeah.
don't want to get you embarrassed. I mean, ultimately,
you want the rookies to play well.
You'd like for
Yes.
the young guys to play well. You'd like for players to get experience. You want the team to start to build a culture, and you also you need. I mean, you don't need to lose. You don't want to lose, but at the end of the day, you're going to need that pick to be high because,
Yeah.
frankly, I don't think these guys can find the guy if it's not like the unanimous top
gotta be
guy.
staring them
It's
in the
got to
face.
it's got to be staring in the
Yes.
face. It's got to be effing Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
Like you got to just be like you got to have an engine luck right
one
there.
of these guys has to have a Burrow senior year.
Yes.
To where it's
Right.
it's
Well, but-
and,
And then
then
you
they
gotta
have to
have
have
the
the
pick.
number 1 pick.
Right. Yeah, it's not going to be easy, but we'll gotta hope for the best. All right.